for now, let's start with Thursday Night Football. Rams at the Seahawks. The top seeds, not just in their division, but in the entire NFC. There are serious implications tonight, Dave. I'm excited for this one.
Yeah, pretty big stuff. I mean, the entire division kind of hangs in the balance with this. I'll talk about that in a minute, but it actually swings very significantly in either team's favor, depending on who wins this game, even with 2 games left. Yeah, should be a really good one. Kind of a hard one to handicap. Last night I was working on our predictions, and you could find the line for the Rams favored at 1.5 on some books and Seahawks favored at 1.5 on some books. Interestingly, their money line odds were the same on both, and we were actually picking up Rams plus 0.5, so basically a pick 'em with some pretty big value there. Since then, this morning, finalizing the research and whatnot, spreads moved to a consensus minus 1.5 for the Seahawks. So we're seeing at least a standard across the books. Rams are now plus money dogs, so it seems like it's settled in that favor. But still pretty much a toss-up, very close game. Model predicts the Seahawks to win at 55%. Fair odds right about minus 120. Over under 42.5. Looks like this is now up to 43 in a couple spots, but we've got 53.1% on that with about a 1% edge. And spread total toss-up 50-50. I'll pull up our game preview here on dimers.com while we walk through some of this. But yeah, I mean, absolute slugfest. Last time out, it was 21-19 win for the Rams. They picked off Darnold 4 times, and yet it still came down to a walk-off field goal miss by the Seahawks, 61-yarder, so it wasn't a chip, but all the way down to the wire, would have hit this over, would have covered, I'm going to do my math, not the spread for the Seahawks here, but the Rams, obviously. This one's in Seattle, so a little different there. But these teams are still somehow pretty much in the same spot they were then. Seattle hasn't lost a game since. Rams dropped 1. That weird Panthers loss, and both teams are tied atop the NFC West here. Weird game script last time out, so I don't think you can really look at that and take too much away from it. The Rams barely passed because of the 4 picks by Darnold. They were set up with short fields. JSN still went off. Puka still went off. Probably would have gone even more so if they actually had to pass more. But it's just kind of almost like an island game, that one. And this one could set up to be a similar script or not. I think Darnold has kind of been figured out by Sean McVay here. He winless in his last 3 starts versus the Rams going back to January 2024. Seahawks defense is really good, but they could probably keep the lid on this Rams offense without Devontae. Don't really see Darnold and this soft running game beating the Rams defense. So if they can limit JSN to even like half his output here, I think you're probably leaning pretty in favor of the Rams on the surface level. And, 55% probability for the Seahawks to win is decently solid, but it's just a fair odds play. There's not any particular value in that side. So I don't think you need to feel any extra particular sway towards Seattle just because of the 55%.
Yeah, it feels appropriately priced to me. I know there's been movement both sides. It's been one of those ones that you kind of want to wait till closer to kickoff to figure out exactly what number you're getting that you want to play. I don't feel like, you mentioned it was like both teams favored by a point at points this week. It never felt like the right time to really strike because it felt like the line could keep moving in either direction. And it really comes down to just which team, if any, you're willing to back. Personally, I see value in the over potentially. This feels low. I do feel like that first game was a Twilight Zone game. None of the Rams passing game numbers, I think, are really correlative to what we should see tonight because of all the short field opportunities they had, as you mentioned. Also, at the same time, I'm probably one of the biggest Rams believers now. I've said it on this program repeatedly. I think they should be the Super Bowl favorite. I would like to think if they are the team I think they are, this game matters to them. They want the 1 seed. They go get it. However, I see the opposite devil's advocate argument here of the Rams forced 4 interceptions, and it still came down to a 60-yard field goal at the buzzer. No Devontae Adams tonight. There are pretty simple report card line items that make you think Seattle at home should be the play tonight. For me, I want to bet Los Angeles. I'm just a believer in this team. It may be a heartstrings bet more than anything, and kind of wanting to bat Matt Stafford to go get the 1 seed in a big game. I think that's where I'm going to net out. Like you, I think I lean to the Rams, but it's certainly not a strong play like typically you can hear us kind of conclude with in these primetime games.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely more of a lean. The model's pretty much in the same way, as it doesn't have a super strong probability. There's no high value. The only edge is 1%. But yeah, I think I would say give me the Rams and the over here. I think we'll see. I don't think it's going to smash. I don't think we're going to see like 34-28 or something like that. But, just a couple more points than that last game with two teams that have been just on fire. I mean, the Rams offense is just completely blown wide open, and no Devontae will be a significant factor there. But, Puka just 200 something yards incoming probably. So,
well, the no Devontae is actually what intrigues me most from a betting perspective for this game. I think there are some pretty interesting prop avenues to go down. I think we'll talk through some of those in just a minute. I've got my personal play for the week is going to be a Thursday night prop play. Yeah. So yeah, I think even if you're just staring at the spread here, the total here, and you're like, it's appropriately priced, I don't see anything. Because Devontae Adams is out, there are some ways to get creative. Maybe that's a good time to turn to some betting angles for this game. I guess let's start with the Seattle side, because the secondary pass catchers are interesting with Seattle as well. What do you see from a Seattle offense perspective here?
Yeah, so obviously it's JSN leading this whole thing. We'll talk about him a little bit more when we get to the SGP, as that's where he's featured in this. But yeah, so let's look at some guys who could find success outside of the top wide receiver in the league. Rams are ranked 19th at 219.7 passing yards per game. And since their last meeting in week 11, they've been a little bit more lax against the pass, almost 230 yards per game, 2.2 passing touchdowns per game, less than 1 pick per game. Not quite the same clamped down passing defense we were seeing from them earlier. Couple positional spots that are vulnerable there as well. And just for comparison, we're talking about Seahawks pass catchers, but the Seahawks have been the complete opposite since that meeting in week 11. Only 166 passing yards, half a touchdown, and almost 2 picks per game by the Seattle defense. So they're kind of trending in opposite directions here. Maybe not what you want to see for the Rams, who are missing Devontae Adams, but for the Seahawks, outside JSN, it's been Cooper Kupp and AJ Barner as the top receiving guys. 60 targets for Kupp, 56 for Barner. Rashid Shaheed, not really done a whole lot since coming over in the trade from the Saints. 4 catches and 37 yards in his first 4 games with Seattle. Finally, maybe breaking out. He had 9 catches and 141 yards over his past 2 games. He has not scored a receiving touchdown, but he did score that 100-yard kickoff return versus the Falcons. So he's coming on a bit. He might settle in as the wide receiver 2 for this team down the stretch, but we haven't really seen it sustained since he came over. However, his past 2 games are certainly trending that way. We've got him 40.5 yards with a 21% TD probability, and you can get him pretty much fair at plus 380 on DraftKings. I think he was plus 400 on FanDuel. So solid TD guy target, at least as far as his production going up, and some pretty favorable odds. AJ Barner, tight end for the Seahawks, he went off in the negative game script against the Rams, 10 catches on 11 targets for 70 yards. But since then, no more than 4 catches or 35 yards since. No scores since week 5. Rams have the number 1 tight end defense in the NFL since that game. Probably not looking at AJ Barner for anything in this one. I think he cashed the FanDuel jackpot earlier this season. Wouldn't really be looking at that again this time. Obviously, we'll talk about that angle. Cooper Kupp feels like less motivation, not in Rams' house, right? But he's very peripherally involved in this offense this season. He still makes some big plays, which is pretty interesting. Despite the injuries, getting older, he still managed to break some pretty sizable gains. Usually his overall production for a game comes from the majority of one catch. So he's still able to make those big plays. Might be an interesting guy to look at for longest receptions sometimes, rather than looking at his actual yards. but only 4 games with more than 5 targets this year, only 2 touchdowns this season. They're projecting him for 38 yards and a 19% TD probability. Just probably not someone, it's 20% now, not someone I'm looking to get invested in. So, yeah, not really a desirable offense behind JSN. Long way of saying it, except for Rashid Shaheed, who I think could have some sneaky value tonight.
Yeah, Shaheed's been emerging, just always a big play threat wherever he's been, and now he's in a good offense with a superstar you got to pay attention to. I feel like you can forget about him at times. I'm totally with you though. I invested in Cup the first time these two teams played. Don't want to do that again, especially if Shaheed is getting more and more involved. It really has been JSN or nothing for me with the Seattle offense in really the bulk of the second half of this season. I still feel the same coming into this game. I am much more interested in the Rams secondary pass catchers here. No Davante Adams. We have seen the ball be distributed to a bunch of different guys in this Rams offense, even with Davante Adams. This is suddenly a pretty large opportunity for 3 or maybe even 4 guys further down the depth chart. I think there are really good arguments for at least 2 of these guys tonight. I'll speak more on those in just a moment, but can you survey the landscape for us here with no Davante Adams? Where else should we look?
Yeah, it's a really interesting. You look at the Rams offensive stats this year, and obviously Puka and Davante has got to be a top 2 wide receiver duo in the league, top 3. Not outside that range probably, but. So this makes sense, but outside of them, the way these yards are compiled is pretty nuts this year. Their 3rd and 4th highest receivers this year are Colby Parkinson, whose 300 receiving yards almost have come exclusively in the past few weeks. Kyron Williams, and then Tyler Higbee, who hasn't played in a month, is their 5th leading receiver this year. It is just absolutely funneled between those 2 guys, with Parkinson emerging lately. So kind of where it goes after this void is almost anybody's guess, but it is a void to be filled. Adams is the leading red zone target in the NFL, 32 looks inside the 20 this season, caught all but 2 of his 14 touchdowns have come in the red zone. So someone's probably getting that stuff tonight. I think it could actually even be just Kyron Williams down there, which we'll talk about in a little while. But Parkinson certainly in a favorable spot. Seahawks teams allowing the 5th most yards to tight ends, over 70 per game in the second half of the season. A little bit lower if you just go back to the Rams-Seahawks game, still 64.8 yards per game to the position. He's obviously emerging lately. All 6 of his touchdowns have come in the past 6 weeks. Like I said, 298 receiving yards this season, almost exclusively in this 6-game stretch where he's been hot. And that's been with Davante Adams in the game. Now you're looking at all those red zone targets filled or void that needs to be filled. So probably a good spot for Parkinson. If you just want to bet him stand alone, I think his yards ladder could be pretty intriguing tonight. We've got him at 41, which I think his line is 39.5, so not much higher than that. However, he is our 2nd highest receiver for the Rams. And I've said this before on the show. I said it last week with Kenneth Gainwell. That always signals an opportunity to me, even if the yards aren't projecting way over their line. Putting them 2nd highest in the hierarchy of the receiving core in our projections says something. It means they're still likely to get 2nd most volume. That means opportunities. Certainly chances for Parkinson to hit 50, 60, 70 yards tonight. Last week, I chuckled to myself when I saw your little notes that you added, Greg, because I had this in here and impossible to ignore doing the research for this game. 7th round rookie Kanata Mumfield was 3rd in routes for the Rams wide receivers last week. That amounted to 1 target, but that's something to consider. In the NFL, you follow a lot of trends like that. You follow snap counts and routes run and stuff, and it's something that kind of stands out in this. But overall,
I'm ready to consider, Dave. I'm super ready to consider. More on this later in the show. But yeah, Mumfield has my attention. I think he has a big opportunity tonight. I'll elaborate in just a little bit. I have eyes on him and at least 1 tight end. Although the thing with the Rams is they love to play 3 tight ends, even with Davante Adams. So I don't know. Last week, I watched the Lions-Rams game. Stafford missed Terrence Ferguson, the tight end 2, on a walk-in touchdown. He was heavily involved. They've been lining him up outside. You've got, Davis Allen still even getting 60% of the snaps, even as he's taking the tight end 3 role here. So you're right. It kind of is this roulette wheel of opportunistic guys. Who do they decide they want on the field in this game? The thing to note is probably that Seattle's defense is a weak spot against tight ends, right? They're allowing the 5th most yarded tight ends on the year. It didn't show up in the first game of the season, but again, that was a lot of short fields. And, I think there were only 3 combined catches from the tight end room for the Rams that game. I would mostly throw that out. Parkinson and Puka, we know, are going to be heavily involved. To me, one other guy will. I don't know if it's going to be Ferguson or Mumfield or I guess even Davis Allen or Atwell. To me, I think it's Ferguson or Mumfield. I'm probably going to play both, but what do you make of the tight end rotation here?
I mean, Tutu Atwell's now hopped Davis Allen by probably only 1 or 2 projected yards here, but we had 3 Rams tight ends in our top 5 projected receivers. It is just kind of a chaos, thing that you're looking at here. If I'm picking one, it's probably Ferguson out of the tight end group beyond Parkinson. Simply, 1, because of the projection. 2, he was targeted in key spots last week. Like you mentioned, they're lining him up in multiple spots. So it's probably going to funnel his way, if anyone. And I feel like if you go with Davis Allen, you're just really reaching into the pit of despair if you don't get what you're looking for. Yeah. And obviously, we don't really have the data to support it. I mean, 8% touchdown probability, 19 projected yards. But I think Tutu Atwell is a good, real long shot, sneaky play. He's plus 4,500 for the first touchdown. It's Tutu Atwell. All he does is catch crazy big passes when he does anything. So something. And he's been with the Rams for a long time. They have held on to him because they know he can step up when they need him. So.
That is the thing with Atwell. He's like the boom or bust candidate here, and maybe we'll get to the end of this game, and Ferguson, Mumfield, Allen all have 1 catch for 6 yards, and Atwell has 1 catch for 70 yards and a touchdown, right? He would be the one who would make that move happen. Again, I'm going to elaborate on why I'm playing Mumfield out of these at the end of the show. To me, I agree with you. Ferguson is the tight end to play. They just line him up in so many spots, and won't surprise me whatsoever if he ends up kind of the 3rd option tonight. For me, I lean Mumfield over Atwell largely because there is some data suggesting that when Davante Adams is not on the field, Mumfield always is. He ended up with a pretty huge snap share in the second half when Adams was out last week. Even before that this season, I mean, Adams rarely comes off the field, but whenever he does, it's like, okay, Mumfield, you're the backup Adams. You're the big contested catch guy. We believe in your ability. I think Davante Adams at one point even gave a quote that was like, he reminds me of rookie me. That's like, he really is my mentee to me being the mentor here. Look, sometimes those are headlines. There's a lot of buzz. Oftentimes, the guy that's getting that type of sexy buzz ends up being a total flop in the games. I'm buying in this week. I really am. I think we saw him find the end zone 1 time in the overseas game earlier this year. He just hasn't had too much of an opportunity, but he's made some eye-popping plays when he has. I think the second half snap count that we saw, he was basically the 3rd option in that offense behind Parkinson and Nakua last week. I think that's what we see for a full game this week, and some pretty crazy numbers. So more on that later in the show.
Very good case. And I won't spoil it, but I'm with you in that angle for sure. Switch real quick to the backfield, as I think that could be a spot you look for if you're kind of shying away from the Rams receiving core. Sorry, after the Davante Adams absence, but about a 55-45 split between Kyren Williams and Blake Corum, edge to Williams lately. But projections are reflecting that 61, 43 yards, a 45%, 28% TD split in favor of Williams. But Corum's really emerging. 4 touchdowns, almost 300 rushing yards over his past 3 games. Almost identical work to Williams in that span, production-wise. Kyren does get the receiving work that Corum does not. 2 receptions and 14 receiving yards, I believe, projected for Kyren Williams. And both defenses are very good against the run, so I don't think we'll see some big 100-yard performances, but good chance we see a lot of volume if the Rams try to offset Adams' absence with the running game instead. And that's actually a pretty good segue here, unless you got anything to add, Greg.
No, I just the Corum increased usage has had me really interested lately. Kyron's very good. He's obviously still the number one option in the backfield, but I just feel like, I don't know, it's trended higher than I ever thought it would trend for Corum's involvement in general. So I think you're right. Like, as much as I'm looking long shot here, of like there's some juicy odds for guys that are going to step into that Adams role, it won't surprise me whatsoever if the carousel of rotating receiving backups just entirely flops and they lean into the run game. That's essentially what they did against Seattle the first game. Like it was a more run heavy approach than we've seen all season. So I will be kicking myself because that's not how I'm going to play this game personally, but I'll be kicking myself if we look up in the third quarter and like Kyron and Corum both have 60 plus yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, couldn't be surprised either.
Right, exactly.
Yep.
All right, and then we've got the Thursday Night Football jackpot on FanDuel. Last week we nailed it with the Sean Tucker long shot play, $230 in bonus bets returned. Let's see if we can do it 2 straight weeks. There's quite a few options this week, though. What are you going to suggest?
Yeah, quick look. Top probabilities are JSN, just under 11%, Kyron Williams, just over 10%, and Puka, just over 9%. If you're looking at Dimer's edge, we had him here earlier and don't actually see him anymore, but Blake Corum had an edge, plus 300, 28% for an anytime TD. Definitely think he's worth a look. The only thing I would say is, I mean, you're not really playing value when you're going for these plays. So, if he's for some reason dropped to like 200, you're probably not going to like the odds, but anything around 280, 300 looks like a pretty good spot for him. And then if I'm getting real dirty, my long shot, it's Tutu Atwell. I'm going to go with the guy who makes big plays, who's been with the Rams before, filled in some big spots. Probably, I don't know, feel like he might not actually be the most overlooked guy tonight, just given his pedigree with the Rams. But, you want the long shot play, go him. And there's just really no one on the Seahawks that excites me enough to get behind them for this promo.
Yep, I agree. I'm looking all Rams for pretty much any prop play, including first touchdowns this week. And we'll see if it pays off. Thank you, Dave. Next up, let's turn to our Thursday Night Football same game parlay.
Thursday Night Lotto.
With DraftKings Sportsbook's 30% boost on this, you can get this all the way up to plus 750 from plus 575. Where do we start?
Yeah, so we're going to go right after what is probably the most enticing narrative of this game, which is the Offensive Player of the Year race. Talked about this on Tuesday, and it's front and center in this game. That is the game preview. We are looking for this here. And look, Puka, 90-plus receiving yards is our first leg. His role can't really get any larger, but he will be without Devontae Adams in the lineup for the first time. So there's a good chance he's going to get at least a few more targets. He's an absolute magnet, 11-plus targets, 3 of his last 4 games, 8-plus targets in all but 2 games this season. He's already posted 8 games of 90-plus yards this year, 3 games over 150. He's got one of the highest ceilings in the NFL. I'm not even telling you anything you don't know about Puka Nacua. 7 catches for 75 yards in versus Seattle earlier this year. Low volume passing game, as mentioned, though, with the short fields. And that was still 1 catch for him away from hitting 90 yards. That was his final outing with fewer than 9 targets since then. We got him projected for 7.2 receptions, 94.9 receiving yards, top yardage projection of the night. Going right over the other side, Jackson Smith.
I have a Puka question for you real quick. Before
what you got?
I know I'm totally interrupting the same game.
No, what you got?
Thing elsewhere, but so we just spent 5 minutes dissecting all of these like opportunistic no-shows that have never done anything. What if they get a chance tonight? Are we kind of ignoring the obvious here that maybe they just throw the ball 20 times to Puka Nacua? Like, obviously, we project some value at the 90-plus already. It's the first leg of the primetime parlay, so I'm in. But now I'm envisioning this. You look at the last 2 weeks, He's been 167 yards and 181 yards. I'm just scrolling through alternate receiving lines right now. He's 6-1 for 150 or more yards, 8-1 for 160 or more yards. Like, to do something he's done the last 2 weeks with no Devontae Adams, we can get 8-1 odds. Dave, do you have any thoughts on this?
The only reason I didn't talk about it is because it feels like the obvious one. It's like, oh, Devontae Adams is out. They're saying to take Puka for 150. Like, obviously, but yeah, it's, of course he could do that. It's certainly feasible. I mean, he would be putting up probably more passing yards than the Seahawks have allowed in the last 5 weeks on his own if he does that. But yeah, I mean, certainly, yeah, it's obviously a play. We're just we were kind of looking elsewhere, but
yeah. Well, they've got Pro Bowlers in the secondary, so it's obviously not a great matchup to just say auto play Puka. But I'm just, as we talk through this, it's like, okay, of course we have to start the primetime parlay with Puka. I'm looking at some of these lines, things he's done week to week. Stafford's still projected at like 240 passing yards this week. Who says 150 of them won't go to the best receiver in the league? I digress. Back to the primetime parlay.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. And I think both of these guys go nuclear. I'll even just start this thing over. But yeah, I played them both for 100 and a touchdown yesterday. I put that in because I think we're just going to see the best players showcased on Thursday Night Football. But, yeah. We digress. But yeah, Puka 90+ yards started off, going right over the other side. JSN 90+ receiving yards, projecting him just over at 92.1. He's the NFL leader in receiving yards, 1541, edging out Nakua by almost 200. Recorded 105 against the Rams in Week 11. He is game script what am I trying to say here? It does not matter. He's unaffected by game script unless it's like an absolute blowout, like the Vikings game when they won 26-0 with 2 defensive touchdowns. That's not going to happen tonight. He's hit 100+ yards 9 times, consistently delivers explosive plays, 30-yard receptions in basically every game. True alpha showdown here with the offensive player of the year race on display, projecting him for 6.2 receptions, 92.1 yards. Our 2 highest projected receivers of the entire week for Week 16. We're going to ride with them here tonight when they go head-to-head. And we're going to finish out with Kyren Williams, anytime touchdown. Most likely TD scorer in the game, 43.9%. Pretty close to fair odds at plus 115, plus 120, where he was when I first put this together. 13 total touchdowns this season, thriving on efficiency. An elite red zone guy, 10 touchdowns on 41 carries. And 3 receiving TDs. That means every one of his touchdowns has come in the red zone. If they're in the red zone, it's Kyren Williams. He scored against Seattle earlier this season, one of the very few running backs to do so this year. And just over 52% of red zone conversions for Seattle, despite a very good rushing defense. So Kyren should get his looks down there and should convert based on the way he has this year. Puka 90, JSN 90, Kyren Williams touchdown, plus 575 pre-boost on DraftKings.
I love primetime parlays that lean into the best players on the field. And that is exactly what tonight's did with some help from the Dimers model, of course. Reminder, Dimers Pro is what you need to get all of these projections in real time, build your own bets based off of all the information you can get on the wonderful Dimers website. Get 50% off with Dimers Pro. Use promo code podcast as a first-time Dimers Pro user.